Art knew that the unexpected deaths of Radius and Uto would send a ripple of panic through every echelon of the noble families, both within the castle and beyond. Holding two major Alacrian prisoners had created a semblance of power and control for the people of Dicathin. To prevent chaos, the council did what countless leaders had done when faced with similar setbacks. They covered it up. Gentry, Albold, and Art were all thoroughly questioned by the council, being the only ones present at the scene. Given the black spikes used to skewer the three corpses, it was clear none of them were responsible for the attack. Still, the investigation consumed most of Art's day. Eventually, Gentry was left to grieve the loss of his assistant, for whom he apparently cared deeply, and Albold was relieved of his guard duty and sent back to Elshire Forest to assist the forces stationed there. As for Art, he now stood in front of Virion in his private office. The old commander sat behind his desk, a grim expression on his face. "Cynthia Goodsky died this way as well, no?" Art asked. Virion nodded, his gaze distant and unfocused. "You must be worried about everyone's safety," Art said quietly. "3 people have been killed, apparently by enemy forces, in the most secure location in Dicathin, a flying castle that has existed since ancient times. Do you think I'd allow people to stay here if I was worried for their safety?" Virion snapped, his voice sharp with frustration. "I'm not in the mood for tests, Arthur. I know you noticed it too. It was the same with Cynthia." "It's good that you realized," Art replied, offering a somber smile. No one had infiltrated the castle. No matter how many angles Art considered, the idea didn't hold. The sheer number of defensive layers one would have to bypass just to enter the castle, let alone penetrate the dungeon level, made it unthinkable. And for what? To kill 2 prisoners? It didn't make sense. If an enemy could infiltrate the castle, why wouldn't they target the council? Or a lance? Why risk so much for so little? Which left only one possibility. The attack hadn't come from outside. It had come from within Radius and Uto themselves. Just like Cynthia, who had a powerful curse embedded within her, it made sense that Radius, and even a retainer like Uto, would be similarly afflicted in case of capture. From the way the black spikes had erupted from their bodies, Art felt certain the curse had been triggered. As for Duvet, Gentry's unfortunate assistant, it seemed he had merely been caught in the explosion of spikes that burst outward from within the 2 prisoners. That had to be the case. Nothing else made sense. Agrona had made it clear that the goal of this war was to seize control of the continent with minimal casualties. His aim was to conquer and exploit the continent's resources, both living and non-living, to bolster his strength and prepare for a direct assault on Epheotis. If he truly had the power to send someone into the heart of the flying castle, it wouldn't have been just the prisoners who died. Does that mean Radius revealed something important? Art wondered aloud. It was too much of a coincidence that the dwarf had died right after reciting that strange poem. Had Radius intentionally used the poem as a way to bypass the curse? Cynthia's curse had prevented her from revealing, or even thinking about, any crucial information. Could this have been the same? "Any plans for what to do next?" Art asked, forcing himself out of the spiral of speculation that had taken root in his mind. "For now, consolidating the priorities of the council members takes precedence," Virion replied. They were already uneasy after the attack on the southern borders of Elshire Forest. And now this. The old elf let out a ragged sigh, as if part of his soul was escaping with it. "To be honest, Arthur, I'm at quite a loss. This war, its scale is unlike anything this land has ever seen, and yet things have been too quiet," Art finished for him. "I agree. I have the same feeling, like something big is coming. I just don't know what." The room fell into a tense silence as both of them sat with their thoughts. Eventually, Virion coughed softly. "Well, there's no use worrying ourselves over it right now. There's still work to be done. Arthur, you're on standby at the moment, correct?" "Yes." General Aya was currently stationed in Elenoir, while General Mika had been assigned to assist in the investigation of the radical group stirring unrest in Darv. General Varay was overseeing the fortification of major cities along the western coast, and General Byron was scouting the northern range of the Grand Mountains in search of any signs of scythes or retainers. Art had wanted to contribute, to be of use in some tangible way, but with the Alacrians uncharacteristically quiet, aside from the isolated attack near Elshire Forest, there had been nothing demanding his attention. For now, stay in the castle and focus on acclimating to your new corps, Virion instructed firmly. If any of the cities report unusual activity, you'll be dispatched immediately. I need you in top condition. Art gave a brief nod and turned to leave. He had barely taken a step when Virion's voice stopped him. "Oh, and Arthur?" He paused, glancing back over his shoulder. "Yes?" Virion smiled faintly. "I know you're not fond of formalities, but as a lance, don't you think you should at least look the part?" Glancing down at the plain loose shirt and dark trousers he was wearing, Art chuckled. "Perhaps I should." Several minutes later, he arrived outside his room, only to hear a faint voice speaking from within. It was his sister. "Have to help me, okay? Promise?" Sylvie must have sensed his approach and warned her, because the moment Art stepped closer, the voice fell silent. He pushed open the door and was greeted by the sight of Ellie and Sylvie sitting together on the couch. Boo, sprawled comfortably on the ground with his massive head resting on the edge of the bed like a pillow, acknowledged Art's arrival with a low snort before lazily shutting his eyes again. Hi, brother," Ellie said, offering a small, nervous smile. Sylvie simply lifted a hand in greeting, her expression unreadable. Art narrowed his eyes slightly. "That's not suspicious at all," he thought. "You're overthinking," Sylvie replied through their bond, instantly making her seem even more suspicious. "Anyway, what happened for you to be gone so long?" Ellie asked, her tone laced with mild frustration. She clearly wasn't thrilled that Art hadn't spent any time with her since his return. "Just more meetings I had to attend," he said vaguely. "Anyway, I'm free now." "Does that mean you'll finally spend some time with your precious sister?" "Yup, if you're okay with the training grounds, that is. Sylv and I both have things to test before an actual fight." "That's exactly what I was about to suggest," Ellie beamed, grabbing her bow, which had been leaning against the wall beside her. Before heading out, Art changed into more presentable clothes. A high-collared military tunic that concealed the red scars around his neck, and a pair of fitted trousers. He was still dressed far more casually than the other lances, but at least he didn't look like a farmhand anymore. As he tied his hair back, Ellie teased, "Your hair is almost as long as mine. When are you going to cut it?" Art gave a nonchalant shrug. "When I feel the need to." Art and his group made their way to the training room. A pair of soldiers stood guard at the entrance, engaged in a mild argument when they approached. "I'm telling you that it's not the General Arthur." The armored man on the left snapped to attention, clicking his heels and saluting. His companion followed suit immediately. "There are currently several mages practicing inside. Would you like us to clear them out?" The guard on the right asked as they opened the doors. Due to the immense power a white core mage could unleash, the training room was typically cleared out and reinforced whenever a lance was scheduled to train. "No need. I'm not the one training today," Art replied, stepping through the doors behind his eager sister. Sylvie and Boo followed close behind as they walked onto the loose earth that formed the room's floor. The large training room buzzed with activity. Nobles around Ellie's age, dressed in ornate robes and well-tailored tunics, practiced spells under the watchful eyes of their guardians and tutors. These youths were the privileged few, descendants of high-ranking military officers or noble families, granted the rare luxury of both safety and training within the castle walls. As the grand entrance creaked open, a few heads turned in Art's direction. The adults, private instructors, and guardians immediately recognized him and bowed with quiet reverence. A dignified woman, appearing a few years older than Art's mother, approached him with a warm smile. "It's an honor to see a lance here in person. If you've come to train, I'll escort my son and his friends elsewhere." "It's okay," Art replied with a gentle smile. "Just here to stretch a little. Don't mind us." "Hurry up," Ellie called out, already a good distance ahead. If you'll excuse me, Art said politely before heading after his sister, Sylvie and Boo following close behind. Your sister really wants to impress you, Sylvie remarked with a fond smile. Don't be too hard on her. Oh, that's no fun. Art smirked at his bond. Get ready to stretch, too. I want to see what you can do before we're in an actual fight. Is that okay with all of these people here? Sylvie asked, casting a glance at the other trainees. We'll tone it down a bit, Art replied. If we really wanted to go all out, we'd have to find a very large valley somewhere very uninhabited. His bond snorted. True. Very well. I'm also curious to see how well I've adjusted to this new form. The group made their way toward the far end of the training grounds, near a quiet pond. Without warning, Art launched a slab of earth at his sister. Incom, he started, but was cut off as 3 mana-imbued arrows shot through the air, piercing and shattering the slab mid-flight. Ellie glanced over her shoulder with a confident smirk. You're going to have to do better than that, brother. Art and Sylvie exchanged amused looks. Looks like I might not get the chance to be hard on her, Art said, shaking his head. Time passed quickly in the training grounds, despite the fact that all Art did was create targets for his sister. It gave him the chance to really test the limits of what he could create with organic magic. Free-forming spells into odd and sometimes intricate shapes seemed to fascinate the children who had gathered around to watch the show. The noble kids would ooh and ah as Art conjured birds made of ice to flit around in the air while his sister attempted to shoot them down. Some of these spells weren't very applicable in battle, but they helped him metaphorically stretch his abilities and see what he could and couldn't do in a set amount of time. He tried raising earthen soldiers like Ulfrid, the traitorous dwarven lance, had been able to, but after raising 3 simple humanoid golems, his control over them faltered to the extent that they simply mimicked each other's movements. His Assyrian trainer Ren had been able to control hundreds of golems at a time, each so precisely that they seemed like sentient beings. A shame one was forbidden to help, and the other was dead. Not that either would have offered to teach him if they were here. The thought left a bad taste in Art's mouth. Rather than dwelling on the past, he focused his attention on the task at hand. He owed it to Ellie to be present for her. Let's try kicking things up a notch. With a wave of his arm, Art conjured a current of fire that began twisting and shaping itself into the form of a huge, flaming bear. The ground where its legs touched sizzled from the heat as he willed his creation to walk toward Ellie. Boo, who had been watching from beside him, tilted his head in curiosity at the flaming beast. Some of the noble kids let out gasps, and their instructors shushed them and tried to explain what Art was doing. Your offense is good, Ellie, but what happens when a spell that you can't just shoot down with arrows comes at you? He called out. Ellie just grinned confidently as she drew her bow. A shimmering white arrow manifested, knocked to the bowstring. Just before she loosed the mana arrow, a slight undulation rippled across the shaft. The arrow shrieked as it flew toward Art's fiery copy of Boo. He had expected Ellie's spell to simply pierce through harmlessly, but as it impacted the spell, the entire arrow exploded in a ray of light, dispersing the flaming beast. Art blinked. That was impressive, superb, jaw-dropping, Ellie finished, her eyes twinkling. Not bad. It was not bad, Art said, rolling his eyes. Ellie put on a dignified air, trying unsuccessfully to hide her self-satisfied smile. As the day went by, Art moved on from conjuring elemental targets to testing her body's defenses. Ellie's ability to conjure a protective layer of mana over her body was flawless, and fast enough to rival some of the upperclassmen he had seen at Xyrus. Due to her unnaturally intricate control of her mana, she was able to layer mana over specific portions of her body almost instantly and create a fairly durable protective panel. Art put the scabbard of Dawn's Ballad, which he had been using to spar with Ellie in close range, back inside his dimension ring. Did you learn close quarters combat with your bow from Helen too? His sister plopped down on the ground, sweating and panting. Yup, I read a couple books that helped too. Most archers carry around a dagger or even a light sword for close combat. Art mused. But since your archery doesn't depend on you drawing an arrow from your quiver and knocking it before firing, learning how to fend off a few attacks in order to give yourself some space for a quick shot was the right decision. Your compliments seem somewhat dull, Ellie said in between breaths. Because that wasn't a compliment. Don't get ahead of yourself, Art said, smirking. We've only been drilling for a few hours. Your stamina needs improvement. That's not even fair, Ellie huffed. What your brother means to say is that he's very proud of your growth. Sylvie comforted Ellie with a smile. Whoa, no verbally expressing my thoughts, Art protested in mock outrage. This was rigged from the start anyway. Ellie stuck out her tongue. I mean, how can you dodge an arrow fired at point-blank range, repeatedly? White Core, Lance, I better be able to dodge a few arrows at least, right? His sister narrowed her eyes. You didn't even break a sweat. You'll get there with enough training and experience, Art replied. Ellie glanced to Sylvie before looking back at him. Speaking of getting enough experience, I was wondering if I can maybe, Art raised a brow. I know. What? Never mind, his sister muttered. Ellie, Sylvie chimed in, shaking her head. Just say it. Does this have anything to do with what you two were talking about before I came back from my meeting? Art asked. I want to start helping out in the war, Ellie said, unable to look him in the eyes. Even though he saw this coming, Art's heart still sank. Arthur, Sylvie sent, feeling his emotions. You said it yourself, thought it yourself, that I was a lot better, Ellie continued when Art didn't answer. I'm confident that I'm better than a lot of the soldiers that have been assigned to squads. I'm okay with being in the reserves, and since I'm an archer, I'd be in the rear anyway, so... Ellie, Art interrupted, kneeling down so he was eye level with his sister. With a wave of his hand, a barrier of wind surrounded the four of them. He didn't feel comfortable having others listening to family conversations. I'm not saying no, but I'm also not sure if I'm allowed to make this decision for you. Mom and Dad aren't here, and to be honest, we haven't exactly been on the same track these days, he said. You guys still haven't made up since you left to go train? Ellie asked, concern laced in her voice. You knew? I'm young, not dumb, his sister said, frowning. Right, sorry. Art looked at Sylvie, who simply gave him an encouraging smile. Letting out a sigh, he gave in. How about we go on a mission together? If you do well, I'll give you my blessing. I can't speak for Mom or Dad, but I won't hold you back on it. Okay, Ellie beamed. Thank you. That was very fair of you, his bond approved. Art shot Sylvie a smile before standing back up. Anyway, since that's out of the way, Sylvie, it's your turn. Although Sylvie had the appearance of a little girl even younger than Ellie, if one disregarded the horns sprouting from her head, she was still an Asura. After having the guards clear out their small audience, none of whom appeared interested in continuing their training regardless, Art began pouring mana into the large mana crystal responsible for powering up the defensive mechanisms within the training grounds. A low hum reverberated throughout the cavernous room, and the walls and ceiling glowed dimly. He allowed Ellie to stay with them in the training room, but had her remain near the entrance, behind Boo, in case one of their spells accidentally flew in her direction. Do I really have to stay this far away when you two are just practicing? I can hardly see you, even with mana-enhanced sight, Ellie complained as she peeked her head out from behind the huge bear. Ignoring her, Art continued to stretch, taking extra time to work out the muscles of his legs. Are you not going to stretch? Do you even need to stretch? He questioned his bond, who was standing perfectly still watching him. Considering I can barely use this body for basic daily functions, I'm a bit hesitant to try anything more, Sylvie replied, frowning. Better to practice now than in the middle of battle, right? Art countered, balancing on one leg as he stretched his aching thigh. Sylvie huffed, but did as he suggested. She attempted to mirror his pose, only to stumble. After a few more minutes of her wild gesticulations, frustrated sighs, and the occasional tumble as they went through a series of stretches, they began their training. So, how do you want to go about this? Art asked. Having only seen her use her dragon form to fight alongside him, he had no idea how she planned on fighting in her humanoid form. "Stay still for a bit," she replied, raising her arm and pointing an open palm in his direction. Art's eyes widened in surprise as a missile of light flew from her palm, but he quickly coated his hand in mana and swatted the missile away. "A mana arrow?" Art looked down at the shallow cut on the side of his palm. Despite the spell's similarity to Ellie's mana arrows, Sylvie's attack was much denser, almost solid. "Ellie's use of elementless mana gave me a few ideas on how to best take advantage of my traits," she explained, sending another arrow of mana his way. This time, the arrow, or more accurately, the harpoon, considering the size of the shining projectile, moved in a slight arc rather than a straight line. Art made no attempt to block or dodge the incoming spell this time. Instead, coating his hand in a thick layer of mana, he snatched Sylvie's mana harpoon out of the air. The speed of her spell jerked his arm backward, but he held on firmly. He had expected the projectile to disperse immediately, but it remained in his hand even as he gripped it with a force strong enough to shatter stone. Although Sylvie may have taken inspiration from watching Ellie, the composition of the two spells couldn't have been more different. Art considered the spell carefully. The raw power of the spell isn't that high, but to pack so much mana so densely into that form so quickly. His mind drifted as he contemplated the possible applications of his bond's magic. By the time he looked back at his hand, the mana arrow had vanished. "Mana manipulation for dragons is limited to pure mana only, right?" he asked. "If you don't count my race's ability to manipulate ether, yes," Sylvie replied. "Although there's something else." "What is it?" Art asked, intrigued. "I'm not quite sure myself. Having spent some time in this form, I've gotten a better grasp of my core. Yet, there's a part I still can't seem to access," she answered. "Maybe you'll unlock it as you grow stronger," Art said. "For now, let's see how versatile your control over pure mana is." With a swing of his arm, he launched a dozen fire arrows. The streaks of flame fanned out, converging on her from all sides. A shimmering barrier of light enveloped Sylvie, and for a moment, Art lost sight of her as she was engulfed in fire and dust. Once the flames died down and the dust settled, she stood at the center of a scorched patch of dirt, arms crossed, yawning. "Try to create individual panels to block each projectile," Art barked, sending another wave of fire arrows. Sylvie's brows knit in concentration as she conjured a large sphere of pure mana from her palm, which then separated into multiple panes to block the incoming spells. By that time, Art had already closed the distance between them and pressed the broken blade of Dawn's ballad against her arm. Instead of flesh, his blade met a patch of black scales emerging from beneath her skin. Despite the failed attack, Sylvie looked genuinely surprised by his follow-up. Art sheathed his broken sword and motioned her over to offer his evaluation. "Your control over pure mana is excellent, and considering how dense your spells are, it seems your mana reserves are quite large. Your body innately provides good physical defense, even if you are a bit slow." Although Sylvie held back her smile, Art could sense through their mental link just how proud she felt. "Still, I don't think your attacks are strong enough to threaten retainers and scythes," he continued. "What else have you noticed about this form compared to your draconic form?" Sylvie paused to think. "My innate defenses are a bit weaker in this form. You held that strike back, but if you had attacked me seriously with Dawn's ballad, I would have lost a limb." "Good to know," he nodded. "Anything else?" "My control over mana is better in this form, but my dragon form allows me to utilize more of my mana in a single breath, albeit a more unrefined form," she explained, twirling several orbs of mana around her hand, as if to emphasize her point. "I see," Art muttered, stepping back a few paces. "There are a couple more things I want to test out, Sylv. Can you conjure a square pane in front of me?" He could feel her curiosity flare, though he kept his intentions guarded. With a flick of her wrist, the spheres of mana orbiting her hand shot forward, converging into a larger orb before flattening into a square. "Keep it stable," he ordered, cocking his fist back. He punched the panel of mana, and though it trembled from the impact, it held its position. What about distance? How far out can you conjure a spell and keep control over it? In response, Sylvie stretched out her hand and dispelled the panel of mana Art had just punched. The spell rounded into a bubble as it shot toward the back wall of the room. She then closed her outstretched hand into a fist, suspending the orb in midair. "Move it left," Art instructed, focusing on the glowing orb. Under Sylvie's control, the orb smoothly darted left, stopping just before it reached the wall. "Bring it back. Change it into an arrow." Art guided Sylvie through a series of exercises, gradually increasing the number of orbs she managed. By the end, there were 10 orbs, 5 transformed into flat panels as he had directed. Sylvie was sweating heavily, but Art now had a solid idea of how they would coordinate in battle. 4 days passed in the blink of an eye. Art spent most of the time in the training grounds, drilling with Ellie and Sylvie until both were mentally and physically exhausted. It was a welcome change of pace for him as well, and he felt his control over mana, refined by his white core, steadily improving. While Sylvie had yet to unlock more of the abilities hidden within her core, and they hadn't yet practiced any coordinated fighting together, both she and Ellie made great progress under his careful guidance. After their morning drills, target practice for Ellie, and multitasking with mana spheres for Sylvie, they took a break. Sylvie, Ellie, Boo, and Art rested near the grassy patch beside the pond, eating sandwiches provided by the castle cooks. "Hey Art," Ellie said as she absent-mindedly picked the vegetables off her sandwich. "What would you say are the biggest drawbacks of fighting using pure mana? From what I've seen while watching you and Sylvie practice, her spells seem really versatile, even against all your elemental attacks." "Stop picking them out and just eat it," Art chided, gently slapping her hand. "And to answer your question, I can think of 3 big reasons why most mages prefer to use magic of their elemental affinity rather than just pure mana spells. First, it uses up a lot of your mana reserves." "More so than elemental spells?" Ellie interrupted. "Pure mana can only come from your mana core, which, as you know from experience, is time-consuming to gather and purify. Elemental magic does use mana from your core, but it's also powered by the ambient mana that surrounds us," Art explained. Ellie's brows furrowed as she tried to wrap her head around the concept. "I'm not sure I follow." Art thought for a moment, trying to come up with an appropriate analogy. So it's kind of like this. Imagine I'm on top of a snowy hill, and I'm trying to hit you, at the bottom, with a snowball. Why am I the one getting hit?" She frowned. He looked at her with a deadpan expression. Sylvie chuckled beside him as she tossed a sandwich to Ellie's drooling bond. Okay, please continue." "A mage using elemental magic would first make a snowball with his hands, but instead of just throwing it, he would roll it down the hill so that the snowball picks up more snow from the ground. By the time it hits you, the snowball is the size of Boo," Art continued. Upon hearing his name, Boo let out a grunt and looked over at Art expectantly. When no treats came his way, he snorted and turned his attention back to Sylvie, the only one still feeding him. Now, a mage using a pure mana spell of the same power would have to make the snowball and pack it with more and more snow until it's the size of Boo, then throw it at you. See the difference?" Art continued. "That sounds like a lot of work," Ellie admitted. "Okay, what are the other reasons?" "It's harder to effectively control pure mana once it's been expelled from your body, and..." He raised a hand, willing a field of jagged stone spikes to erupt from the ground several dozen yards away. "Unlike what I did just now, pure mana spells have to originate from the caster." From the look on Ellie's face, Art could tell that the proverbial light bulb had just gone off in her head. "Anyway, since we've had a break, why not continue a little longer?" Art suggested, rising to his feet. "Yes," Ellie agreed, springing up beside him. "Hey Sylvie, can you do what you did earlier and make those moving panels? I want to try to hit them." "Sure. If you shoot some mana arrows off course, I can practice reacting as well." Feeling more content than he had in a long time, Art watched the two run off together. Beyond them, the doors to the training room swung open, and a single guard sprinted inside. Judging by the urgency written across his face, Art knew whatever news he brought wasn't good. Sylvie and Ellie turned, their eyes tracking the guard as he halted in front of Art and gave a sharp salute. "General Arthur, news of a massive corrupted beast horde has come from the wall. Commander Virion is currently waiting for you at the dock with a team of mages." Stooping, Cersei dipped her swollen, dirt-caked hand into the cold stream, savoring the relief as icy water soothed her raw skin. She scrubbed the grime from her hands and forearms, then splashed her face, the chill shocking her back into full wakefulness. Settling onto the bank, she tugged off her boots with a grimace, then peeled the foul, damp socks from her aching feet and sank them into the stream. The sensation was nothing short of heavenly. She had told the others that a rinse in the stream might revitalize them, but Fane had only rolled his eyes, and Maeve dismissed the idea outright, insisting it wasn't worth the risk. She had a point. Decathian patrols had come within a stone's throw on 3 occasions in the past 2 days, and the winged elf, the she-demon, as Fane called her, had flown over their heads twice. Maeve was right, of course, which made Cersei feel just a little guilty when she'd quietly dropped from the tree where they'd made camp. She had waited until everyone but Cole was asleep. He had looked at her, but said nothing as she slipped away into the mist. Cupping her hands, Cersei scooped up the cold, clear water and let it spill over her cracked lips and into her parched mouth, which had felt stuffed with cotton for days. It was the first real moment of relief she'd experienced since stepping foot into the elves' cursed forest. Still, true peace was impossible. Even now, her senses stretched outward as far as her crest would allow, probing through the enchanted mist for any sign of movement. When she suddenly sensed a figure approaching from behind, she tensed, only to relax a breath later when she recognized the presence. It was Cole. "Want a turn, eh?" she whispered with a wry smile. "Fine. I'll head back to the tree and keep watch. Can you keep the barrier up from here?" Cole stopped short, offering an awkward shrug. "No, but I wanted to make sure you were okay." Cersei raised her left foot slightly, wiggling her bare toes in his direction. "Are you sure you didn't just sneak over here to steal a peek at my exposed bits, Cole?" Cersei felt his pulse spike and sensed, rather than saw, the flush that crept up his face. Far too loud, Cole stammered. "No, Cersei, I'm sorry. I never meant to." She quickly shushed him, eyes scanning the woods around them. The stream, once soothing, now felt dangerously exposed. Her chest tightened with unease. What had she been thinking, coming here alone? Who knew how far those sharp elven ears could reach through the mist? Like a child suddenly aware of the dark, her heart pounded, and she felt a sudden, aching pull toward the warmth and safety of home. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I shouldn't have teased you, and we shouldn't be here. Let's get back before they realize we left them asleep and unguarded. If Fane finds out I tempted you away from your post, he'll skin me alive." Cole only nodded, too embarrassed to speak, and turned toward the camp. Cersei quickly tugged her sweat-stiff socks over her clean feet and slipped her boots back on. Cole walked slowly, giving her time to catch up. She kept her eyes on his steps as they moved through the mist. If only my crest let me sense what's going on in his head, she thought. She felt no romantic interest in the older soldier, but she didn't dislike him either. They needed him. They all needed each other. And now more than ever, they needed to stay focused on the mission. Distracted, Cersei didn't immediately register the presence entering the edge of her senses. When it finally hit her, her breath caught in her throat. Her hand shot out, grabbing Cole by the shoulder. He turned, about to speak, but froze when he saw the look on her face. Fear surged through her like wildfire. Her limbs locked up, instincts misfiring like some helpless prey animal catching the scent of a predator. "Move, dolt!" she screamed at herself inwardly, but all she managed was a slow glance into the fog behind them. She felt the telltale compression of a barrier forming around her, Cole's magic, just before a crack echoed through the air. A shaft of wood exploded 6 inches from her face. Splinters peppered her cheek as the arrow shattered against the shield. 2 more struck the barrier in quick succession before she even had time to flinch. The fear burned away her paralysis. "Run!" she shouted. Together, she and Cole sprinted through the trees, weaving around trunks and leaping over roots. Arrows thudded against the shield every few seconds, but Cole held firm, teeth clenched in focus. 3 elves, fast, skilled, and closing in. Cersei led them back toward the camp. It was a gamble, but there was no outrunning elven scouts in their own forest. Their only hope was that Fane and Maeve had heard her yell and would be ready when they arrived. Cole began to slow as they neared the camp tree, likely preparing to scramble up into the branches where their companions slept. But Cersei grabbed his arm and pulled him along, pushing past the base of the massive trunk. Above them, 30 feet up, she could sense movement. Maeve and Fane were awake. Moments later, Fane dropped from the canopy like a missile. He landed hard on the leading elf, his spear driving down through her shoulder and all the way to her hip, the force of the impact snapping branches beneath them. The second elf, too close behind to stop, slammed into Fane's back, sending both tumbling in a tangle of limbs and steel. The third elf leapt aside, nimble and precise, turning in midair as he drew his bow. He landed, already aiming, arrow knocked and string taut, just as Fane rolled to his feet, a dagger flashing in his hand. Cersei and Cole dove behind the broad base of a tree. Hidden, she extended her senses, following every heartbeat and movement in the chaotic scuffle. Fane lunged. The elf loosed his arrow. It struck near Fane's shoulder, skipping off his armor and burying itself in the thick of his neck. Fane stumbled, but he didn't stop. The elf had sacrificed evasion for a killing shot. Too slow. Fane's dagger punched between the elf's ribs, and the soldier crumpled beside his fallen comrades. The last Decathian soldier turned and bolted, vanishing into the fog, likely hoping to alert reinforcements. But a jet of green light sliced through the mist, striking him squarely in the back. He crumpled without a sound, landing no more than 10 feet from where Cersei and Cole lay gasping in the dirt. "Fane's hurt," Cersei whispered, rising to her feet and offering Cole a hand. "Come on." Maeve was halfway down the tree by the time they reached the base. Fane stood hunched, eyes blazing as he snapped the fletching off the arrow jutting from his neck. He yanked the shaft free with a grunt, blood spilling over his hand and dripping down his armor. "What the fuck happened?" he growled, clamping one hand over the wound. Cersei started, guilt catching in her throat. "Explanations later," Maeve cut in sharply, landing beside them with a thud. She tossed Cersei a small leather bundle. "Patch him up as best you can. Cole, barrier, make it wide. I'll handle the bodies." "There's a ditch," Cersei said, pointing past the clearing. "Deep enough for 3. Cole sat at the base of the tree, eyes closed in concentration as he conjured his 2-layered barrier. Nearby, Maeve moved with grim efficiency, dragging the corpses away one at a time into the mist. Cersei worked clumsily to dress Fane's wound, hampered not just by the crude supplies, but by the striker's constant scowling and turning to glare at her. Still, the bleeding slowed under her care, and she managed to wrap the injury tightly enough to keep him standing. Maeve had just returned from depositing the final body into the ditch when Cersei froze, her breath catching. "Oh no," she muttered. "What now?" Fane asked, following her tense gaze into the shadows beyond the clearing. 2 more, approaching, cautious, quiet. They must have sensed something. "The barrier won't be enough to mask us if they're already tracking the remnants of our magic," Cole said, sweat beading on his brow as he fought to maintain the layered shield. "Go," Fane ordered sharply, locking eyes with Maeve. She held his gaze for a heartbeat, then gave a short, resolute nod. "Wait, what?" Cersei asked, blinking as the words sunk in. Her body felt heavy with fatigue, and everything was moving too fast. "What are you talking about? What's he going to do?" "He's going to lead them off," Maeve said quietly. "It's the only way. Fane's the only one fast enough to draw them away and survive it." Cersei opened her mouth to say something, to apologize, but Fane was already jogging off through the trees. Without a word, Maeve started in the opposite direction. Cersei and Cole exchanged a brief look heavy with guilt and remorse, then followed. "I'm going with you," Ellie shouted from behind. Art stopped in his tracks, the guard beside him halting as well. Turning, he met his sister's unwavering gaze. He wanted to tell her it was too dangerous, that she was too young, that she could get hurt, could die. But he bit his tongue. "You promised, remember?" Ellie said, her voice steady, resolute, eager, and tinged with fear. "Afraid you'll leave her behind." "Not of the mana beasts," Sylvie's voice echoed in his mind. "A massive horde of corrupted beasts," Art murmured under his breath. "You'll be with me," Ellie said firmly, as if that was enough. "And I'll have the protection of the wall." "I understand your dilemma, but this is a good opportunity," Sylvie added. "I'll be with her as well, and casting arrows from the top of the wall is little more than target practice for her." Art's gaze lingered on Ellie's upturned face. "But what if the beasts break through?" "I know you won't let that happen," Sylvie replied, her voice calm and sure, steadying him with her confidence. The guard shifted beside him, armor clattering with impatience. "General Arthur?" "We're going," Art said at last, turning sharply for the exit, the anxious guard trailing behind. Glancing over his shoulder, he called, "What are you waiting for, Elle? Let's go." Ellie's face lit up, a radiant smile spreading across her lips. "Come on, Boo!" she shouted, dashing after her brother at a full run. Immediately outside the training grounds stood an unfamiliar mage with a large, sparrow-like bird perched on his shoulder. Upon making eye contact with Art, the mage respectfully inclined his head. "Greetings, General Arthur. I am Officer Jeweler Strajan. A member of my squad surveying the beast glades was the one to spot the horde. I will be briefing you on the situation at the wall." "Officer Jeweler," Art acknowledged with a nod. Without delay, the officer began relaying all pertinent information. Two other mages, both formerly highly accomplished adventurers before joining the army, would be accompanying them to the wall as additional support. The best estimate of the horde's size hovered around 20,000 beasts. While the majority appeared to be between D-class and B-class, several A-class and even S-class mana beasts had been identified. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get too close because of the Alacrian mages, but we're certain there are at least a dozen S-class mana beasts, Jeweler said solemnly. Art turned to Ellie. A dozen S-class mana beasts, and the fact that they're corrupted means they'll be even stronger and fiercer than normal. Ellie's face paled, but her expression remained resolute. "I'll be okay." Art's determined, talented, yet sheltered sister had never encountered a mana beast outside of the tamed bonds in Xyrus. He doubted she could even begin to grasp the sheer scale and terror of facing an S-class beast, let alone a dozen of them, flanked by thousands of lesser creatures. And yet, he was leading her straight toward that nightmare. "They're only mana beasts, Arthur," Sylvie offered, her thoughts calm and steady as she projected soothing emotions toward him. I know, he replied inwardly, some of his anxiety easing under her quiet assurance. He turned to Julor. Any signs of retainers or scythes, officer? None, Julor answered confidently, which is why Commander Virian deemed that sending a single lance was sufficient. How long until the horde reaches the wall? Art asked. At their current pace, we expect them to arrive in no more than 2 days' time, Julor replied, casting a wary glance at Sylvie and Ellie. He seemed on the verge of speaking further, but wisely kept his thoughts to himself. They marched in silence until they reached the dock, which was unusually quiet, lacking the typical clamor and bustle of workers and beasts. Instead, a somber atmosphere hung in the air. Virian stood waiting with a small entourage while several assistants busily secured saddles onto massive hawk-like mana beasts. "Arthur!" Virian called out. The commander's once cheerful demeanor had faded, leaving behind eyes dulled by years of battle. Beside him stood 2 unfamiliar mages, with a few attendants lingering behind them. "Commander," Art greeted, offering a salute as he approached the elder elf. "I trust Officer Julor has briefed you on the situation, so I'll keep this short," Virian said. "Let me introduce the 2 mages I've assigned to support you at the wall. This is Callum Hembrel. He's young, just past 30, but already a skilled fire conjurer in the solid yellow core stage." The chestnut-haired mage stepped forward. His long, coiled bangs partially veiled his forehead, and though he wore a curious expression at first, he quickly shifted it into a polite smile. "Callum, as introduced by the commander. Pleasure." Virian jerked a thumb toward the figure standing a few feet behind Callum. "This big lug here is a dark yellow core augmenter, but he's been fighting in the beast glades for over 40 years. The man was massive, nearly a foot taller than Art and easily twice his girth. Clad head to toe in faintly glowing plate armor, he radiated an imposing presence. Short-cropped hair framed a face shadowed with stubble, and his piercing gaze roved over Art as if measuring his worth. He extended a hand that looked nearly as wide as Boo's paw. "Gavik Lund." Art grasped the enormous hand in a firm shake before turning his attention back to Virian. "So what's the plan? Judging by those mounts, I assume we're traveling by air." Those are Callum's and Gavik's personal mounts," Virian confirmed. "The closest teleportation gate is in Blackbend City, and the train line hasn't been completed yet. Fortunately, the castle's proximity to the wall makes the flight manageable." Art turned to Sylvie. "Do you think you'll be able to carry Ellie while holding Boo?" Boo let out a groaning protest, clearly understanding the implications. "If the trip isn't too long, I'll manage," Sylvie replied, ignoring the sulking Bond. "Wait, the little kid and her pet cub are coming along?" Gavik asked with a scowl, casting a disbelieving glance at Ellie. "Commander, is that wise? There's going to be a massive army of mana beasts out there." "She's an adept conjurer who will be a valuable asset stationed on the wall," Art cut in sharply. "And since when is it okay to refer to a general's sister as a little kid?" Despite being nearly 3 times Art's age and twice his size, Gavik visibly paled. My apologies," he mumbled, lowering his gaze. "Didn't realize she was your sister, General Arthur." Virian, his expression clouded with worry, didn't press the matter of Ellie's presence. Instead, he motioned toward the attendants standing behind him. At his signal, they stepped forward, carrying a large wooden chest inscribed with intricate runes across its surface. "Anyway," Virian said, attempting to change the subject, "before you leave, I've prepared a little something for you. It's not much, but I thought wearing something a bit more eye-catching might help bolster morale at the wall." Placing a hand atop the chest, the runes flickered to life and the lid opened with a soft click. Several compartments unfolded, revealing an entirely new outfit, clearly crafted for function, but styled to stand out. "Jand, Brune, help the general get dressed," Virian ordered. Before Art could object, the 2 attendants were already steering him toward a dressing stall that had been conveniently set up off to the side, clearly planned well in advance. The man, Brune, immediately began undressing Art, while the female attendant, Jand, started working on his hair. After brushing through the tangles, she neatly tied the back and trimmed his bangs with practiced efficiency. "I should cut my hair soon," Art noted as he caught a glimpse of himself in the mirror. His hair had grown long enough to fall past his shoulders. If not for his height and relatively broad frame, he could have easily been mistaken for a girl from behind. And from the front, Sylvie added dryly, her thoughts cutting into his mind. You're prettier than some of the noble females I've seen in the castle. Art groaned inwardly. Yeah, I should definitely cut my hair soon. Once his hair had been tamed, the attendants began dressing him in the new outfit. He slipped into a black, high-collared shirt that conveniently covered the burn marks on his neck, scars left behind from his first battle against a retainer. Brushing Brune's hands aside, Art pulled on the trousers himself. They were surprisingly thick despite feeling light, tailored to fit so that the thin, dark gray greaves could slide comfortably over his shins. Next, the attendant strapped matching bracers over his arms and handed him a pair of tight, fingerless gloves. What? Not going to help me find the finger holes of my gloves? Art quipped with a crooked grin. I'm not sure I'm up to it, honestly. I might get my thumb in the pinky hole and then all would be lost. Brune remained stoically unfazed. The last touch, General Arthur. With a kind of ceremonial precision, he draped a waist-length mantle across Art's shoulders, its white fur lining a striking contrast against the dark fabric beneath. While the appearance of the outfit was a bit over the top, what with its intricate trimmings and the engraved armor plating on his shins and forearms, Virion had clearly chosen well. Though the protection it offered was minimal, the bracers and greaves provided just enough defense without compromising Art's speed or mobility. Art stepped out of the dressing stall, appreciating the freedom and lightness the new clothing afforded him. Callum and Gavik were already mounted on their respective mana beasts, prepared for departure. Ah, much better, Virion said with an approving nod. Where'd my brother go? Ellie teased, glancing around dramatically. Art rolled his eyes as he made his way back to the commander, who was now clad in a gray fur-lined coat that fell just below his ankles, layered over his usual loose robe. You really like your furs. That mantle's an old piece of mine, Virion replied, his gaze softening as it lingered on the garment. I wore it back when I was younger. Doesn't look quite as good on you as it did on me, but I'll let you have it. Thank you for the outfit, Art said, touched by the gesture. Virion's expression turned grave. Thank me by keeping the wall from falling. Yes, sir. One set of large bifold doors opened, allowing a constant rush of wind to whip through the air, and the floor beneath them slowly extended outward into the open sky. Art motioned for Sylvie and his sister to follow as they made their way toward the edge of the castle. I forget sometimes how high up the castle is in the sky, Art shouted over the roar of the wind. The view was breathtaking. A vast sea of clouds rolled below them, occasionally parting to reveal glimpses of the wild, untamed terrain of the beast glades far beneath. Tell me about it. At least the clouds are thick enough that we can't see how far down it actually is, Ellie called back. Art laughed and gave her a playful wink. Just make sure to hold on to Sylvie tight. I won't drop you, Sylvie said reassuringly. Boo groaned in protest, the sound more of a whimper than his usual low growl. Sylvie shook her head. I won't drop either of you. Callum and Gavik swept past on their mounts, the giant mana beasts diving off the edge of the dock before leveling out, their wings extended wide as they adjusted to the turbulent air. Let's go, Art shouted, conjuring a shroud of wind around himself. Sylvie began to glow, her form shifting as she transformed into her draconic shape. Jump up, Ellie, she called, her voice deeper in this form. Art watched as the sleek obsidian dragon soared above the clouds with Ellie gripping her back and Boo, clearly displeased, dangling from her claws. As Ellie's scream echoed through the air, Art took it as his cue and leapt from the edge, diving into the sky after them. How are you holding up? Art asked his bond, noticing that she was gradually losing speed. It seems that, despite all of my magical and physical capabilities, I wasn't designed to be an efficient mode of transport, Sylvie replied dryly, glancing down at the large bear dangling in her grasp. Several hours had passed since their departure, and aside from the breathtaking scenery of the sky and drifting clouds, The journey had proven uneventful. They had settled into a steady pace, flying southeast with Callum and Gavik just a few dozen yards ahead, leading the way. After the initial thrill and Boo's absolute terror wore off, both Ellie and the bear had dozed off. Up ahead, Callum and Gavik dipped sharply, guiding their winged mana beasts beneath the cloud cover, where the sky darkened into a churning, stormy gray. We're almost there. You'll be able to get some rest once we land, Art conveyed to Sylvie as he followed the others into the dense mist. The wind shroud wrapped around Art's body kept the moisture from the clouds from clinging to him or his clothes. Ellie, however, wasn't so lucky. As Sylvie descended into the thick curtain of wet, heavy fog, Art couldn't help but chuckle at the sight of his sister, now wide awake, soaked to the bone, and thoroughly grumpy. Boo's thick fur was matted and dripping, giving him a scrawnier appearance than Art thought possible. He tried to catch Ellie's eye to poke fun at her, but her gaze was fixed downward, mouth agape. "Arthur, look down," Sylvie said through their link, her sudden concern hitting him like a crashing wave. Far below, a churning mass of black and gray writhed across the landscape, an endless tide of corrupted mana beasts. Even from over a mile up, the scale of it was staggering. Though they were well out of range of any attack, the sheer volume and density of the creatures were enough to stir unease in the pit of his stomach. Callum and Gavik had halted their descent, hovering in place as they stared at the scene unfolding beneath them. Every few seconds, they glanced at one another, their expressions shifting from disbelief to unease. As Art took in the enemy stretching endlessly across the land, his pulse pounded like a smith's hammer. Heat coursed through his veins, and he realized his hands were trembling, not from fear, but anticipation. "Arthur, you're smiling," Sylvie observed. They arrived at the ground level of the wall, where a small welcoming team stood assembled around the designated landing platform. Sylvie dropped a relieved Boo onto the stone floor, and Ellie slid down from her back. "Ah, oof!" Ellie yelped as she fell straight into Art's arms. "Couldn't you have used wind magic to, I don't know, gently float me to the ground?" Art glanced down at her with a smirk. "I thought all girls wanted to be carried this way at some point in their lives." "Gross," Ellie muttered, quickly scrambling out of his arms and landing lightly on her feet. She scanned the area while wringing the water from her soaked clothes, only to freeze and flush red. "Arthur," Sylvie, now returned to her human form, nudged mentally from beside him. A silent, expectant crowd had begun to gather. Callum and Gavik had already handed off their mounts to the beast keepers and were standing nearby, waiting for orders. Ellie straightened her posture, attempting to appear dignified despite the blush still lingering on her cheeks. Boo stood tall beside her, trying to look imposing, though the dampness clinging to them both somewhat diminished the effect. "General Arthur," a familiar voice rang out, Captain Trotius Flamesworth, flanked by Albanth and Jasmia. As soon as they made eye contact with him, all three inclined their heads in a respectful greeting. Instead of addressing the captains immediately, Art swept his gaze over the crowd. Most of the faces belonged to merchants and laborers stationed within the wall rather than soldiers. "You should have stayed in your draconic form, Sylvie. They're staring at you, not me," his bond replied with a faint smile. To maintain morale, the people stationed at the wall had likely not been informed of the true size of the enemy force. Even so, many among them wore anxious expressions. Art's presence hadn't done much to ease their fears. His youth often worked against him in moments like these. Murmurs circulated through the crowd, questioning whether he was truly a lance. He exhaled slowly, then ignited Realmheart. Power surged through his limbs as the world bled of color, save for the vibrant mana particles glowing all around him. Though the runes on his body remained hidden beneath his clothes, the transformation in his eyes and hair alone was enough to leave the crowd stunned. Gasps echoed through the gathering, and several onlookers stumbled or dropped to their knees, overwhelmed by the sheer pressure of his aura, even though he was holding back. While my presence in this fortress may prove unnecessary, I hope to expedite our victory with as little loss to our forces as possible, Art declared, his head held high. The crowd burst into cheers and applause as Art strode toward Trotius and the two captains standing beside him. Color seeped back into the world as he suppressed his dragon will, and he felt his hair return to its usual auburn hue. Senior Captain Trotius Flamesworth. Art extended a gloved hand. Didn't think I'd have the pleasure of seeing you again so soon. The senior captain clasped his hand with a weary smile, then stepped back as Art offered the same greeting to the other two. General, Jasmia said, nodding curtly. Albanth removed his armored gauntlet and grasped Art's hand with enthusiasm. General Arthur, a pleasure to have you with us. Let's head to the meeting room, Art said, falling into step beside Albanth. Since the captain oversaw the bulwark division, responsible for defending the wall, it was the perfect time to address Ellie's role in the battle. My younger sister would like to contribute. She's a skilled magic archer, and her talents could benefit your division. If you'd prefer to test her first. No need for that, General, Albanth replied firmly. A lance's word is more than enough for me and my men. Without breaking stride, he signaled for a nearby messenger and instructed him to fetch a soldier. I don't need a babysitter, you know, Ellie muttered from behind. I still have the pendant you gave me, remember? Ellie pulled out the phoenix worm pendant Art had given her for her 12th birthday, a finely crafted piece made possible by the artificer, Gideon. I've let you come on this mission like I promised, Art reminded her, casting a stern glance her way. But you're not allowed to complain about me taking extra precautions. That pendant only works once, and it's not something I can easily replace. By the time their small group arrived at the familiar meeting tent, the soldier summoned by Albanth was already waiting. Stella, Albanth called, gesturing her forward. This is General Arthur's younger sister, Eleanor Leywin, Ellie finished, standing straight and offering a crisp salute. Eleanor Leywin, Albanth repeated with a nod. She's a capable magic archer, and I'm placing her under your direct care. Make sure she's properly outfitted, then take her up to the top level. If Stella had any objections to being assigned as Ellie's guardian, she gave no sign of it. Her scarred face remained unreadable, her back straight as a spear. She held her helmet tucked under one arm and a heavy mace in the other, a silent figure of discipline and resolve. Yes, Captain, the soldier barked, clicking her armored heels. Please follow me, Lady Eleanor. My apologies for asking you to give up one of your soldiers to guard my sister like this. She was rather adamant about serving, and I thought the wall would be a safe place to start. Normally, I'd agree with you, Albanth responded. But with the size and strength of this beast army approaching, I can't say that for sure. After everyone had settled into their seats around the table, the strategy meeting began. Those present were Senior Captain Trotius, Captain Jesmiah, Captain Albanth, Callum, Gavik, Sylvie, and Art. Let us begin by discussing our own troop numbers, locations, and composition, Trotius said, his tone brisk and authoritative. Once everyone at the table, he cast a glance toward Sylvie and Art, understands our current troop distribution, we'll move on to battle strategy and tactics. Using a silver croupier's rake, the senior captain began shifting colored markers across the large map spread out before them. Each large marker represents 1,000 troops, and each small one represents 100. Does this look accurate? He asked, glancing toward Jesmiah and Albanth for confirmation. Not including the freelance adventurers currently under my command, we've got just under 2,000, Albanth confirmed with a nod. Jesmiah used her sheathed sword to nudge a few of the smaller markers into position across the map, adjusting the layout within the Beastglades territory. One of my scouting units returned just minutes before General Arthur arrived. Their leader will be joining us shortly to give a full report. Thank you, Trotius said with a nod. I anticipate an influx of adventurers as news of this horde spreads, but the numbers likely won't be substantial enough to alter any major decisions we make here. General Arthur, Commander Virion has often spoken highly of your strategic insight. Would you care to present a plan of action? Art shook his head. I'm not well versed in the internal workings of the wall or its personnel. I think it's best that you lead the planning. I'll offer suggestions where I can. Noted, Trotius replied succinctly before continuing with his outline. While Art held little fondness for the man who had discarded his own daughter like a broken toy, he couldn't deny that Trotius's cold efficiency was well suited to his position of authority. Ruthless or not, the senior captain was methodical, his every move measured with military precision. The core of Trotius's plan hinged on slaying as many of the corrupted mana beasts as possible before they could reach the wall itself. This required several units to be deployed well beyond the range of the wall's stationed mages, essentially serving as cannon fodder. As Trotius spoke, he repositioned markers on the map to represent 4 separate units, taking a more circuitous route to intercept the beast horde. Our greatest advantage against the incoming threat is their lack of coordination, he explained, tapping the map with his gloved finger. They seem to rely solely on overwhelming numbers, with only a sparse presence of Alacrian mages guiding them. So, while the Bulwark Division deploys a steady wave of soldiers and augmenters to slow their advance, 2 units from the Trailblazer Division will circle wide and move into position to flank them from both sides. He shifted 2 larger pieces to the left and right edges of the wall's position, illustrating the encircling maneuver with calm confidence. The senior captain paused, letting the weight of his words settle before continuing. With concentrated strikes from 3 directions, the beast horde should be sufficiently thinned out by the time it reaches the wall. At that point, the conjurers, supported by General Arthur, ought to be more than capable of finishing them off. Captain Albanth's expression turned rigid, his dissatisfaction with the plan evident in the tight clench of his jaw. He didn't hide his disdain for sacrificing troops. Across the table, Captain Jesmaya studied the map with hawk-like focus, clearly searching for a more tactically sound and less costly alternative. Something feels off, Art thought, his eyes scanning the placement of the markers again. While the lives of the soldiers beyond the wall shouldn't be treated lightly, the plan itself seems fairly reasonable, Sylvie responded through their link, her gaze fixed on the strategy laid out before them. No, not that. General Arthur, is something the matter? Trotius's voice cut in sharply. Art blinked and looked up, startled to find all 3 captains, along with Callum and Gavik, watching him closely. The senior captain nodded toward the table. You've been tapping your finger. Looking down, Art realized his right hand had been drumming a steady rhythm against the wood without him noticing. He withdrew it and offered a calm nod. My apologies. I was just thinking. Trotius's brow twitched. If you are dissatisfied with the plan that I have suggested... No, it's not that, Art interrupted, lifting a hand to forestall any tension. Whether this is a good or bad strategy, I'm not entirely sure yet. However, I have a feeling that this attack may very well be their final push on this front. What do you mean? Captain Albanth asked, his eyes narrowing with concern. The Alacrians have been sending a continuous wave of corrupted beasts toward the wall, driven by their mages, Art explained, folding his arms. And while that approach is undeniably effective, strategically speaking, it's not something they can sustain long term. He turned to Jesmaya. Captain Jesmaya, you mentioned earlier that your units have cleared out most of the dungeons the Alacrians use to conceal their teleportation gates, correct? She gave a slow nod. Yes, the few gates my troops have discovered recently were already broken. It was common knowledge that the Alacrian teleportation gates in the Beast Glades had a limited number of uses. Even some of the more stable gates discovered by the Trailblazer Division were considered too unstable to cross safely. The fact that the Alacrians had to gamble each time they sent troops to Dicathan spoke volumes about the ruthlessness of their leaders. Given the scarcity of gates for the Alacrians to slip into Dicathan, it'll be nearly impossible for those already in the beast glades to receive supplies, Art continued. With how wild and untamed those lands are, they'd be preoccupied just trying to survive once their supplies ran out, Gavik added. That's why I believe they're devoting everything they have into this final attack, Art concluded, studying the map with furrowed brows. Not that I disagree, General Arthur, but how does that change our current predicament? Trotius asked, growing impatient. Art circled their current position on the map with a finger. It means we might need to rethink our plan of sacrificing soldiers just to keep the wall fully intact. Albanth spoke up first. If it means not sending my soldiers in a single file line to their deaths, I'm all ears, General Arthur. As am I, Jesmia agreed. A moment, please, Trotius interjected. While I fully support preserving as many men as possible, I'd like a plan grounded in more than just a feeling. Fair enough. Art regarded the senior captain for a moment before continuing. This is speculation on my part as well, but I believe keeping our soldiers alive is imperative. At this stage of the war, flexibility is key. Having living troops to divide and reassign in future battles is far more valuable than holding an immovable wall. Trotius's eyes narrowed. We would be risking a vital structure in the defense of both Sapen and Elenoir, one that took over a year to complete, General. If the wall falls into disrepair, what happens when an Alacrian army attacks shortly after the beast horde? Would a fortified wall hold off mages better than mages themselves? Art retorted. Captain, I'm not saying we should forfeit the wall outright. I'm suggesting sacrificing parts of the fortress instead of sacrificing our men. After a brief silence, Trotius slid the silver rake he'd been using to move pieces on the map over to Art. Please continue. Accepting the gesture, Art stood and began rearranging the pieces while the others watched with interest. So, here's what I had in mind. If you're enjoying this series, please give the video a like. It really helps others discover it. And if you'd like to see more, consider subscribing to the channel. Want the next chapter? Comment next chapter below.